Welcome back, everybody. My name is Gammatrap, one word, and this is our tutorial series where we cover fire. Now, we've got different sizes and styles ready, and each of these will be in their own video, just so you don't have to hunt around or wait through a very long video. You can just pick the video in the series that you're looking for, or you can watch them all for a slightly more comprehensive view and understanding of fire. Now, we've got small and medium and large. Each of them have a realistic and stylized version to them, as you could probably see here down below. Now, they've all been made, but if you don't see the links in the description down below, that means they haven't been published yet. Make sure to subscribe with the notifications on if you'd like to catch those. But for now, let's get started. Okay, so for a small stylized flame, the basic fundamental rule of stylized is essentially the rule of cool. It'll work as long as it looks cool, right? The main rule is actually just don't be boring. If you're going to write anything in the comments, just write don't be boring. So that means we got to make sure that whatever flame we're doing, it doesn't look like the realistic flame. The realistic candle or matchstick flame is pretty, right? Okay, so the main point we need to do for a small candle stylized flame, like you would see in an anime or a stylized like video game, like League of Legends or something, right? Is to make sure that the small flame we're making is interesting. Now it's going to be slightly higher saturation, this kind of higher vibrance, like more vibrant red. See, it's been over here to the edge, and then more vibrant kind of yellow, because the other yellow was like way over here, like this butter kind of yellow. We're using I think that's technically more of a butter yellow. No, that's cream, off-white, essentially. But we're just going to pretty much using these two colors. Okay, now here's the fundamentals of stylized flame. This is going to be talked about in the next larger flame, like for a torch or like a fireball or something, right? The next iteration of stylized flame is going to be slightly larger than this, but the fundamentals of a good quality stylized flame is essentially the same. We're just going to take a boring flame shape, right? But then we add interesting shapes, kind of like that, Now, the reason we're doing this is so that if we erase inside these bubbles, what we end up with is this super cool flame shape, right? Let me color this in a little bit better for you. There, see? It's essentially the same as a flame, but we kind of cut interesting shapes into it. When you're making flames, especially stylized ones, that's kind of the basics that we're going to be working with. Now, stylized anything is completely subjective, okay? That's kind of a big deal. You might not like my style of flame, and I might not like your style of flame, and your employers might not like your style of flame, which would suck, and I'm sorry about that, by the way. Hopefully they do. Hopefully they hire you because they think your flames are badass. Right, so I only want the best for y'all. So to start off, we're going to make, we're not going to really worry about making the shape and then cutting the circles. We're just kind of going in with just the mindset of interesting shapes, right? So we're going to grab that kind of higher saturation red, and we're going to, let's not worry about a wick this time. Let's just make a nice round shape here, a cool round shape up here, and like a round shape over here, right? Let's just start with round shapes. Round shapes work out pretty good, right? And again, we're using just the basic hard round pressure opacity, and our size is turned off. We can actually turn our size on for this one, and that is essentially, it does this. The pressure changes the size. I don't particularly like that, but you can totally rock that if you want, because stylized is all about your own style, or finding another style. But this will sort of help you move into the direction of a more interesting flame, I hope. So we start with round shapes, right? Kind of off-center, not like a snowman, We want them kind of like almost like beans, right? But kind of different, tilted different ways, looking slightly different, looking a little weird. And then we take an eraser, and it's the same thing, hard round pressure, same situation up here, and we're just gonna start cutting. Let's lower that a bit. Interesting shapes, and just like that, right? Just by that alone, this already looks pretty cool. All right, the number one rule of don't be boring is it's holding true. We don't want this to be a boring shape. We want multiple shapes inside it to make it look interesting, but we don't want it to be predictable. So this is still kind of predictable. We can push it a bit, and we're going to make sure we just keep shapes inside shapes, and you can make this any way you want. Honestly, like that was a cool shape. Let's just make another one. This whole process can be done pretty quickly. All right, so we'll just add some more up here, and we'll have it tail off to the side a bit this time. All right, so you keep your basic flame shape in mind. So I'm thinking like, you know, make sure it's big, and they slowly get smaller, and then make them kind of big enough to where they sort of like start overlapping, and you can start cutting shapes. All right, just cut round shapes inside the round shapes. Let's add a little bit of bottom cut right down there. That's pretty cool if you ask me. Now, also, with stylized flame, you don't have to stick to just one kind of, shape situation. You can have multiple, things like going in and out and around. So let's have this like a liquid, like it's a magical flame being hovering over this pedestal. Looking like a teapot right now. Add some extra stuff on the side. You can clean these up later if you want. This whole process shouldn't take you too long. Once you get a basic grasp of like what you like, which is important, or what the client likes, which is more important, arguably, then you'll be able to really handle this just fine at whatever speed you need. Let's keep that a bit, but let's just detach it a smidge. Yeah, it's like that. Now I'm just going to add some of the yellow. Now the yellow is going to be inside, and it's going to be shapes on shapes, just like the one before. But we're not going to let it touch the edge, unless you want to. Again, it's all stylistic. It's all, it's whatever, man. You do you. Shapes on shapes. Make them interesting. Don't be boring. Basic fundamentals of stylized anything. It's kind of like an eye. A goat eye. I'm calm that down. I'll make sure I keep a good red outline. Everything that is in the piece needs to communicate very well. Let's add a little bit more red down here. This really does run the risk of looking like a teapot. Now that I've said it, now you'll only see a teapot. Or a lamp for like Aladdin. Let's add a little more yellow down here. Little yellow spots. Now here's an interesting thing to consider. A lot of stylized flame nowadays tends to look really liquid. I don't know if you noticed that, but a lot of stylized flame tend to look really liquid. It moves almost as if it's an upside down like water faucet. I'm just going to cut some more interesting shapes here. I might even just get rid of that little teapot handle. Because visual communication is very important. So if the client's like, oh man, it looks like a face, they're never not going to see a face until you change it. Just keep that in mind too, okay? Now, you can gently, if you want, add a little extra yellow, but make sure it's not too distracting or blends too much. Make it look solid. Don't make it look all soft, because a lot of stylized flame tends to be kind of more sharp, more sharply cut, So for example, if I do this, that kind of distracts from the overall shape, because stylized flame tends, like I said, tends to be sharp, but also tends to be kind of flat. It doesn't have much depth. You don't want to go for the full rendered 3D situation, unless that's the part of the style. Like, for example, a lot of Blender artists will take a stylized, and Blender, by the way, is a 3D software, take a stylized flame drawing and then make it into a stylized flame, sort of like 3D sculpture, which is cool. Pretty amazing. And here I'm just adding more. I'm cutting into this very light yellow with some more red shapes. And again, main tenets of stylized anything, right? Rule of cool. Shapes in shapes. Don't be boring. Now, a lot of this stuff has a sort of glow to it, and you got to be super gentle, because again, you want this to stay kind of flat. It's kind of important. So if you do add any kind of glow, it needs to A, be, again, super gentle, and B, it's good if you make it into like a blending mode, like color dodge. How about linear dodge? Right. It needs to not interfere with these shapes. So if I do that, you can still see, you know, the shapes inside. That's the whole point of the blending. I don't use red. I don't use the yellow. You can still see the shapes inside, right? This brush, if I for example were to do this, it would start diffusing, and this is the flame layer, by the way. If I do this, it'll start just diffusing the shapes and it'll just mush it all together, which you don't want. So we're going to use a brand new layer with a blending mode, like linear dodge or color dodge, I guess. But it's up to you. And this will just add a nice, gentle glow while keeping the shapes, you know, together. Like, okay, yeah, those are solid shapes. They're flat. They look like they could be in an anime or a cartoon or a video game. And it's got some glow. And the glow does not take away from the flat, sharp shapes, which is very important. Okay? Now, bonus points. We're going to go back down to the flame layer. Get our hard brush again. And I turn this canvas sideways because it's easier for me to do this. We're going to just simply add a bit of lighting to our pedestal. Now, here's the cool part. With stylized fire, for example, everything you do has the potential to be stylized. For example, even this like lighting, right? Even this it's lighting the pedestal. This can be stylized. I can add some cool cuts. I can have like cell shading. I can do all kinds of stuff with this, and it could look pretty cool. See, that looks so cool. And if you want, you can also, you know, do kind of the same thing. Make a soft brush, go up to your linear dodge or your lighting thing, and then you can just add just a touch, just to show the light bouncing off, like that. There you go. Now it could be, if Doom were an anime. That'd actually be really cool. Castlevania. There we go. That's a good one. It's got some style. That's a lot of stylized stuff. Okay, so this was the second, I believe, video in the series of Fire. Right, the first one we covered a more realistic flame for like a candle or matchstick. This is a more stylized small flame for like a candle or matchstick. Maybe slightly bigger, right? Like usually smaller flames don't have that much variation. This one has a bit more. So the stylized, like medium-sized flame that's going to be the next stylized version of Fire is going to be looking kind of like this, but we're going to add just a little extra, just a little more juice, a little more love, a little more oomph, right? Same with the whole realistic Fire, which is next in line. Then after that, we're going to have the big ones. We're going to have the big fires, the huge tornadoes of flame, the columns of fire, biblical in proportion. That's coming up pretty soon. I split all these videos up to make sure that if you're looking for something specific, you don't have to hunt for it. It's just got a video for you ready. In the description down below should be links to every single one of the fire videos in this series. If you don't see one that I talked about, that means it hasn't been published yet. Feel free to subscribe if you would like to see when that video gets published. And I'll put them all in a playlist for you called Fire probably. I don't know, I might make a bigger playlist because I'll be doing small things like this all the time. Little series like electricity and water and whatever else. Probably. But if you check on the videos on the screen right now, it should lead you to other videos in this series. And if it doesn't, that means that they haven't all been published yet, but I'm recording them all at the same time, so they will be published in order. It's very soon. Thank you all so much for watching. Leave a like if you found it useful, entertaining, or you really enjoyed this cool cut of a flame. Thank you so much for my amazing patrons. I appreciate the ever-loving out of you for supporting the ever-loving out of me, and I will see you in the next one. Thank you so much.